have a baby. All are gay and wanted a baby. Who was sitting in the park?
We both were.
You
Jeff and I were.
Jeff and I. You saw these children. You said, "I'd like to have one of those."
Yeah, yeah. We saw a daddy with the little baby.
Yeah.
And that looked good.
Yeah. Look at how thrilled this audience is. So they all slept together, and so they wouldn't know whose baby it is.
Uh-oh.
Somebody knows? Oh, she knows her baby. Yeah, you know what I mean. This is going to be... Where do we get these audiences? But understand the point here. The mystery about paternity is to avoid mashugana with the parents. Is that what you want to say?
Yeah. And I think to avoid any possible conflicts early on. Now we've got it down pretty good, but at first you don't want anyone to get too territorial. We really wanted it to be a 3-person commitment, and we didn't want 2 people to be really committed and 1 person to feel like the lost uncle.
I understand.
We didn't want the grandparents to be territorial about it either. We wanted both sides of the grandparents too.
Not a bad point. You know, this is my grandparent. Could be, could be. They all live together in a cute little house. This is serious now. These are 3 parents of 1 child. The child is a girl, beautiful young girl by the name of Veronica. She's 4 years old, and she thinks, you know, obviously, what's strange? She's never had 2 parents. In fact, she thinks 2 parents is what, a broken home?
Right, she thinks kids that come with 2 parents must come from a broken home, because doesn't everyone have 3?
Right. Now, you know that we should not be surprised that the numbers of gay people want to have a child. It doesn't mean everybody who's gay wants to, but because you're gay doesn't mean you don't want to have children. And here's one setup that allowed that to happen.
This is
a number of gays, huh?
This is well, it's an unusual setup.
You're the MD. Boy,
Yeah.
we're going to need a psychiatrist for this show. You're Emery Hetrick, and you're founder and president of the Institute for the Protection of Lesbian and Gay Youths.
Yeah.
Are you an out-of-the-closet gay person?
Yes. And I've been out for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, but I've been professionally out for about 10 now.
Yeah. And you wanted to say, Doctor, I've interrupted you. What was your point?
Well, that the parenting here is a bit unusual. And if we take a look at the whole spectrum of gay people, not all of them want to have children.
No, I didn't mean to suggest they did.
Yeah.
This is merely one way that at least 3 gays who were interested in parenthood chose to make this joy available to them. Now, let me talk. Why are you laughing? It is joyful, isn't it?
Yes.
It's also a pain in the neck, isn't it?
Parenting, yeah, always.
Parenting is a
But
pain in the neck.
this is interesting. Now, you tell me now, as briefly as you can, how many of you work outside the home?
I do right now. I'm the only one.
Jeff Worcester is the only...
I'm a computer consultant, and I work outside the home right now.
So Joy and Bert are home all day long? Don't you get on each other's nerves?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Ronnie isn't, though, so that
Yes.
helps.
Are you, you're a professional person, or do you...
I'm trying to be a freelance illustrator, and I'm also an office worker.
But you'll be honest to say that what, your income is what, at least irregular, is that so?
Yeah, right.
Do you have an income, Joy, or are you just being
From writing right now.
But
Yeah.
you're not...
I work with his company, too.
Okay,
So.
do you get a regular paycheck?
No.
Okay, so
No.
Jeff
He's
is
the
the
one.
only regular wage earner here.
Yes, right at this point.
So Veronica has two live-in parents at home.
But
this
Veronica's not at home. Veronica's at school all day.
Well, okay. Okay. Now, who does the cooking?
We take turns. We have it's scheduled on the week. Monday night I cook, and Tuesday night I take care of Veronica, and it's scheduled that way. You know, we break it down 7 days a week, and we.
And you each have a night off every third night. You get a night off.
Right.
What's wrong with that? Huh? Yes, ma'am.
Sexual preference is something we haven't decided where it comes from. Is it environmental? Is it we're just born that way, or what? Have any studies, doctor, been done on what type of sexual preference comes out of gay parenting?
It's, well, in the studies that have been done, you can't predict.
Do gay parents raise gay kids, is your question?
Absolutely not.
No.
I did a very substantial research study. I surveyed over 500 families across the country, and the number of children who were over, say, 14, old enough to know their sexual orientation of those families, the percentage of them was actually less than the percentage of gay people that are coming out of most surveys studying the population as a whole.
Right. Are Jeff and Bert are lovers, is that so?
Yes.
Yes,
So you
yes.
are a relationship,
Yes.
Right.
and you allowed a woman to get
Well, you see, no, our relationship started as friends. Joy and Jeff went to high school together. Jeff was my best friend's lover, and
It's very complicated.
It all sort of happened in reverse. We were very, very tight as friends, and then we became romantically
I see.
and sexually involved.
Now, let me just understand this. Jeff and Joy were high school pals?
Right.
Yeah, we've been best friends for 15, 17 years.
When you were pals in high school, did you know you were gay in high
Yes.
school? How about you? Did you know you were a lesbian, Joy?
Oh, absolutely.
You did, okay. And when did Bert drop out of the sky and into this?
When Jeff moved to my hometown, which was downstate from Chicago.
And then you and he developed a relationship?
Yeah, a best friend relationship.
Which matured into a
Sexual relationship when we all moved to San
Sexual
Francisco.
thing all came up at once. We were three best friends. We lived together, we did everything together, and we decided to have a child together. And when we decided to have a child together, we decided we'd get married and have a child maybe in a year or so, which the pregnancy happened within a month
matter?
of the time we decided this.
Are you saying that the three of you went to bed together so that neither one of you would know?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
That's what I said, too, at the time. Oh.
Now, wait a minute.
I had the same reaction.
Yeah. I can't think of any question.
How does Veronica perceive all this?
Yeah.
I'm Daddy, he's Papa. It's natural, it's the way it's always been for her.
What about financial? What about when Veronica wants to go to college? Is everybody going to split that all?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're
Absolutely.
a family.
Yeah.
Just like
What
two
happens
people
when
are.
Veronica gets older and really wants to know who her father is? Will you gentlemen have
We're
a
willing
blood
to have
test?
a blood test at that time. If it's important to her or if there's a medical reason, we're comfortable with that.
You said you got married. Who got married?
We did.
That's
All
the te-
three of
yeah,
you
all
went?
three.
Yeah.
I got a picture. Show him the picture, David. There you are on your wedding day.
And I think those expressions
Next
sort of
picture.
convey the mood.
There's Bert and Jeff on their wedding day, not to each other. And here's the wedding.
And that's the best friend, Kevin, in the middle there.
That's the one who brought Bert and me together.
yeah.
Best man.
Yeah.
And yes, they were. Both Bert and Jeff were there at the birth
Yes, I pulled
of
her out.
Veronica. You what?
I pulled her out and cut the cord. I caught her.
We did
And-
have a professional in attendance, but the
You
guy
did have
did most of the
professionals
work.
waiting
right.
with rubber gloves and all
Right.
that. Jeff was at your ear, so to speak, helping
Yeah.
you.
He was my coach. He pushed as hard as I did.
There you are, shortly after. There's the baby.
Yeah, the birth was at home.
Now, who's legally married for the purpose of taxes?
That's one thing we don't discuss with anybody except ourselves.
What? Hang on. What's the matter?
Who performed the ceremony?
A very good friend of mine who lives in Hawaii now, he performed the ceremony for us.
Haven't they been able to figure out who the father is just by looks?
We have our suspicions,
Well,
but
what's
there's
funny about
nothing
that
conclusive.
is that she looks, of course, like Joy, but she looks like me, plus she looks like Jeff's younger sisters.
Yeah.
So it's real convenient that
Yeah.
way. And I've seen the pictures. You know, I had my male pride, and I thought, oh, she's mine, but, you know, she could be Jeff's, too.
Considering the
deaf.
cruelty of children, especially Veronica's age, I have a 5-year-old girl. Did you consider what her friends would do to her right now? 5-year-olds are very cruel. No matter how much you explain to your daughter that this is the right way for you three, she's not going to feel any better. She's going to be hurt.
Okay, I respond to that by asking if your child goes to school and discusses your sex life or your marriage with her friends. Probably not. In this day and age, the mother-father nuclear family is not as common as it used to be. And the preschool environment we have are in, there's single parents, there's divorced and remarried parents. A lot of kids have two dads, they just don't always live together because they're divorced.
One of the
That's
things
not,
that's happened.
that's not true. Kids do go to school and discuss that.
Yeah.
My children come home and say,
so-and-so's mom and dad are getting a divorce.
Yeah.
Did you know that so-and-so doesn't live with their father anymore? She lives with their mother, or so-and-so's moving to
Right, I think the
somewhere.
point there
They
is
do
that there are
discuss
a
that.
variety of
Expect to-
situations,
to have
so
a
she doesn't
broken
stand
family.
out.
In some of the settings, even the kids think that that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
What about the grandparents? I mean, what happens to the
they're
estate?
terrific.
I mean, you know, do they love her? Do they both love her? Or is it...
Yeah.
They all love her.
You
At
should-
first
you should
it was
see Christmas.
doubtful, but we had, like, Bert's parents have been out for 2 Christmases now. When they came, his father told me, "Thank God I have another son now. I feel so proud." The
Yeah.
acceptance
They
is there.
really accept her. I
Yeah.
mean,
It made
you know,
the
just
difference
when
to the
it's alone,
grandparents.
when they're alone and they take her individually, you don't think that they look and say, "Oh, this is just
My
put her
my
under
father
the
has
table."
he has his doubts, but before we came on here, he told me to be proud, that he was proud too, and he gives me support all the time,
Yes, ma'am.
and
I
that's
am-
rare too. Thank
Over.
you.
Back here, please. Yes.
I am a grandparent, and I would tell you, that would upset me terribly. I would want my own grandchildren to be my own grandchildren. I wouldn't want to share them with other people. No, I'm
On the other
sorry.
hand, if you thought you weren't going to have any grandchildren and then you had a grandchild, would you quibble? Our parents
It's
thought
not-
they weren't going to have
it's not-
grandchildren,
well,
so...
Maybe I'm wrong, but to me, it's not the norm.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
What
It's
is the
not the
child's
norm.
last name?
What is the child's last
The child's
name?
last name is Lackamet Worcester. My last name is Worcester. Bert's last name is Lackamet.
Veronica Lackaman Worcester.
It's a heavy thing to hang on a small child, but...
You said you would all pay for her, you know, all the financial things when she grows up. Do you have some kind of legal arrangement regarding that?
No, and we should, and that's a good point. I think that I usually encourage other people who are considering this to take out legalities, but we've sort of played it by ear. I think that that's something we have to take under consideration. She does have stock in her name that should accrue towards her education.
As a lesbian, do you have a lover, a female lover?
Not at this point. It would
But
take
if
a
you did-
it would take a really special person to work into this family, and I'm aware of that, and that's a limitation that I'm willing to accept for the privilege of having this child.
I must applaud you on one degree that I think you're all very gutsy to do this. Do you plan on having any more children?
I'd like to.
You're very, very quiet during this. What do you think?
I have to sort of sort it out in my mind.
Yeah.
Think about it for a while.
I know. I'm not sure. What?
Why did you have to have 2? Why couldn't you have just had another gay man lover if it wasn't a relationship you were after? Why did you have to pick 2?
They were there.
We had the relationship first.
I'm asking her. I realize you were already an entity. I'm asking her why you just didn't go out and pick why didn't you get inseminated, actually? That's what I
Because
want to
I
know.
didn't want to be a single, that's a very good question. I did not want to be a single parent. I know single parents, and it's not an easy road to hoe. And I couldn't see that and doing the best for the child. And this situation was there, and actually it was really their idea, and they had to convince me that it would work with the 3 of us. But they were there, and they were my closest friends. And it was the only way I could see that would work for all of us.
Do you think it works if you live in San Francisco? Do you
I
think it would
it
work in
helps.
Chicago or whatever?
I don't know if we would have done it if we'd lived someplace else, but I think as this woman over here said, we're pretty gutsy, and I think we'd have tried to make it work anyplace.
Considering the world that we live in today, right now you're all living harmoniously. But you know, in this age of divorce, such things do occur. Now, what would
What's gonna
happen to Veronica in a situation like this? And what about custody of Veronica?
Yeah, Veronica may be the only child in America whose parents could get divorced and she'd wind up with 2 parents.
That happens to be true. But couldn't that lead... That's very true, but couldn't that lead to some sort of a custody fight or battle? Because you would all want this child so badly.
I think because we've all been such good friends, even in the hardest times, we've tried to be clear about our feelings, and there'd be some way that we'd work it out.
Yes.
Thinking long term, what's going to happen to Veronica when she gets grown? If she has children, what is she going to explain to her children?
I think basically the same thing we explained to her, be open to questions. Again, I talk to children of lesbians and gays across the country, and the difference between the children who handled it well, and we're talking young children and grown children, the difference between them was that their parents were honest, willing to answer any questions, and gave them lots of love. And the children were secure. And you can't beat love for making a child secure. And you can't beat information for making them understand and not be paranoid.
There is another dimension that they got to have structure, and they have to have some limitations on what they can do. But that's,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, well,
I think a strong family provides that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to know how your home is situated. Do your two guys have a shared bedroom and you have a separate bedroom?
Yes.
Yeah, we live in a 7-room Victorian flat in the Haight in San Francisco.
But you all shared the same bed after Veronica's birth, true?
Yes.
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 So Veronica's first night was spent with her 3 parents.
Yes.
That's right.
Her first 6
Yeah.
months was spent with her,
Her
3
first
parents.
bed was my chest.
Of course, there's nothing suggestive about that because, believe me, after going through a delivery and birth,
I don't think you have to explain that to the audience. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a problem with this whole thing in general, except for one thing. I'm surprised you're all 3 very much individuals. Did you think about the name at all, like the fact that you hyphenated their names?
It's funny, I don't have a very strong attachment to my name. I didn't really care if I had.
She would have sounded like a law firm then.
Exactly, and I also feel that I know I'm the biological mother. Again, there's no question. I don't have to prove anything, and I don't have to establish a legal tie. And part of the reason for hyphenating was to establish on record that they were both connected.
I'd like to know how much thought and preparation the 3 of you had in determining this child's well-being before you made the decision.
Well, frankly, not a whole lot. We did some very serious discussion. For several weeks, we discussed it. As soon as we decided we were going to go ahead and get married and set up family in a different way than we already had family, because we already had an established family relationship between us. But we decided that maybe in a year or so we'll have a child. When we went for the blood test for the marriage, they said, you better go get a pregnancy test. You're
Shocked
pregnant.
my life.
So it happened very quickly. But we had several weeks of very serious discussion first. So it didn't take us by surprise at all. The speed at which it happened was very surprising.
We were planning on a year and it happened
In a month.
in a month.
Yeah.
In a month. Well, in other words, it took them a month to get pregnant. Yes.
What were some of your concerns about the development and the growth of the child?
What troubles you?
What
the
troubles
doctor
you?
wonders. What might you think be the consequences?
The thing that troubles me is it seems to me that a lot of times, even regular parents who shouldn't have children for whatever reason, are very selfish, and they must have children, and they have to have children. But, you know, the reason I asked was because I wanted to know, did you really prepare for this and think of the consequences?
I think both of the men had extensive experience. Jeff is the second oldest in a very large family. Bert helped raise a friend's child. I had friends who had children. We had all seriously considered whether or not we would be good parents before we hit on this idea. And we'd all realized that we felt we had something to give and something good to give to a child's development.
We are in New York City with 4 people who are discussing a rather unusual, what shall we say, family. An unusual family. It's an extended family. We'll be back in just a moment. Veronica. There you go.
Hey, sweetie girl. Well, come on, you gotta look at the camera. Smile for everybody. She's actually
Isn't there
not
always
shy.
an odd person out in a group of 3?
At one time or another, every one of us has felt like the odd man out or odd woman out. But because it happens, everybody has felt that way. It kind of shifts, you know, goes in a triangle, and eventually it all balances pretty well.
Yes. What a beautiful and talented, intelligent young person Veronica is. Hi.
Hi. I came from a broken home, and I was never sure where I would get a hug or if my mother would leave, too.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful that she has the opportunity to have so much love, especially gay people, because we are sensitive people. And I have a lot of friends who have wanted to have children and we're afraid of...
You're a gay person.
Yes, I am. I passed though.
You pass.
Well, this
Not
isn't
anymore. You just went on television doing that.
I think it's wonderful, I really do, and I think that we have a lot of love to give, and I think children have a lot to benefit from our sensitivity and creativity, and we're blessed people. You know, we're not, we're okay.
That's how I feel, is that I've really been blessed.
Turn out to do, often to do better parenting than non-gay fathers, because they're not stuck into roles and things like that.
In the long run, don't you think that Veronica is going to suffer? I mean, you can give her all the love that maybe conventional parents can't give her, but don't you think that maybe...
It's only speculation at this point. We're doing everything we can to ensure that that doesn't happen. So far, most of the kids that come by, most of the parents who know are supportive of it. We haven't had that problem yet. I keep on looking out for it, you know.
We were concerned it would happen when we went to school.
Yeah.
But she's been in a school now for 3 years, and Bert and Joy have both been on the board of the school. Joy and I are very involved in the Lesbian Gay Freedom Day Parade in San Francisco, and last year we had the entire school, all the teachers from the school came and ran the child care of the
And they're all
parade
straight
for
now.
us.
Most of these
And
people
they
are
were
straight.
so supportive. We have never got a negative reaction from it. At first they were like, oh, your situation's odd, but in working with them, the fears just have been laid to rest by working with us.
Yeah.
You're her primary teachers, though, and she's learning everything from you right now, and I can't help but think that you are teaching her that your relationship is perfectly normal when it really isn't.
Our relationship is perfectly okay. It works. She's getting nurturing and love. Normal, you can look at the world, and I defy almost anyone to show me a perfect example of normal.
Yeah, it's not an issue of normality, it's an issue of that they're unconventional. And that's the thing.
I keep thinking when she gets married, you'll have a
it's
pretty
not-
crowded processional line.
I'm sure we will.
A lot of the,
She's already planning that, by
She
the
gets
way.
the whole silverware set just from the family. Coming to you, hand.
I would say that
Not much time.
you're probably pretty good parents, and she's lucky to have women and men in the house instead of a lesbian relationship or just a homosexual, homosexual
That's
relationship.
important. I know a lot of lesbians and gay men who are single parents and who really are looking for, thank you, sweetheart, who are looking to create a balance simply because they feel that that will prepare their child better for going out into the world. So,
see, the issue is not so much that it's a gay couple. Very often what you see in a single parent is the problems that have come from a divorce, whether it's a gay family or whether it's a straight family. And that's really the thing that the kids have to cope with, is the divorce.
You are a lesbian person, so? Are
And
you
a
a parent?
grandmother.
And are you a parent? You're a
Parent and a grandmother.
and may we ask the circumstance of your own pregnancy? Pardon the invasion here.
Well, when I was 18 years old, there was a much more hostile environment in those days, and
So
I
you
got
pretended
married.
you were straight?
Yeah, I got married hoping that it would go away, and it didn't. And the result of the marriage was 2 children, and I have a grandchild. And I have a wonderful relationship with my kids. But one of the things that I want to say, I think that our children, I think in general in the society, are taught to hate. And I think any problems that my kids had as a result of my being a lesbian came from neighbors and the general society, where they taught the kids to stay away from that kid who's different because her parent is different. And I think that if we could learn to respect diversity and respect one another and people's different lifestyles, that, what's her name?
Veronica.
Veronica will grow up a healthy young child.
How old were your children when you announced your gayness to them?
My son was 10 and my daughter was 12.
Ooh, that's a hard age.
It was very difficult.
Tell me, well, like, I know you probably
Well,
answered
it's very, very difficult to say how. I told them, you try to do it as simply as possible so that they could process what you're saying. And they sort of, okay, Mommy, let me go now. Because I was not in a relationship, so it was sort of this hypothetical thing, because I didn't have a lover. And I didn't have a lover until like 2 years later. But the problem came from the neighbors and from society at large.
The main problem is not with gay couples. The main problem is from the negative attitudes about gay people. And that's what is, I think, the thing that's
I had to, in order for my kids to grow up healthy, I had to go back into the closet so that nobody would know anything about me. And that's what I had to do. So the problems are environmental, that these kids have to deal with their peers, but it's the peers' parents who teach them how to hate and these attitudes. That's where they get it from.
Well, isn't the leading to conception an inherently repugnant act to a gay lifestyle?
Not at all.
I had a friend who explained it real good.
Don't condemn the question now. If we can't talk, we can't grow, all right?
Yeah, really. All right. But,
well, go ahead.
Let me just say something. As somebody who was married to a heterosexual and had a child, I'm a lesbian not because I hate gay men.
Right.
I mean, and I don't find heterosexual sex repugnant. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at. I happen to have married a really nice guy who, by the way, was supportive when I came out.
Most gay men are married, you know. Sometimes.
Say that again.
Most, I've been told, I can't prove this, but I've been told that most gay men are married. There have been some studies that the 25% of gay males either are or have been married. Now,
and that's because of a culture which insists on...
That's because of a culture that insists on that. Now, some of them really want to be married, and they like it, and they have a very strong attachment to their family. They marry the majority out of love for their wives, and that they enjoy being with their children.
But I assume that the vast majority of gay men, well, not a small percentage of gay men who marry find themselves with an awful lot of pain on the occasion of coming to grips with their own sexuality and...
Yes. Now, those are the ones who have not felt comfortable with it in their growing up period. The times have changed now so that we can have a family situation like this, but it's still the predominant mode of a man who gets married to a woman, and if he doesn't feel comfortable in his sexuality, along around the mid-late 30s, early 40s, he can have a lot of trouble. So that most of the people I've seen, at least in practice and in therapy, have said that they've been aware of being homosexually oriented from a very early age, but they simply couldn't accept that, and they didn't have the support systems around them to do so.
And we'll be back in a moment. Whose father, who is the biological father? Is it Jeffrey? Or is it Bert? Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know. I want to know.
Well, we had a discussion while we were off, and everyone decided what it's the doctor.
Yeah, it's the doctor's baby.
I guarantee it's not.
I didn't know him then.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if I misunderstood, but she's 4 years old, and she's gone to school for 3 years now?
Almost 5, and she's gone to school for almost 3 years, you know, rounding up a couple of months.
Preschool.
Yeah.
Preschool.
All day.
I haven't been until the last, none of us have been, and we also work, we freelance, so we need to be free to work.
Jeff, you stayed...
We want to around kids.
I'm sorry. Jeff, you stayed home for 2 years, didn't
No,
you?
Bert
No,
did.
it was
I'm
me.
sorry, Bert did.
Yes.
Bert did. All right.
Yeah, he was the primary
I both I was the house husband. I cleaned the house.
You went through housewife syndrome and everything.
Yeah. So you watched Mayberry RFD a lot.
Yes, I did. As most of the women know, you take care of your kid in the morning. You
what do you
feed them.
do all day? I mean,
now?
You can
or
get that
when?
work done by 9:30.
Right. Wait. I tried to do the stuff,
I told
but
you the same thing. You wouldn't
it's
listen.
got to be boring, you know? You watch a little girl, watch a little baby,
Yeah.
and they don't do much. They don't really do much. You change their diaper, they fall asleep.
Yeah. It's sort of
and
like
then I
husbands.
sit at
They
home.
don't do much. They do.
I'm curious about responsibility. I know in the normal family of 2, there's a meshing of the 2 parents as to how to raise a child, and the child will often try to play one against the other anyway. Now, I'm real curious about how 3 of you mesh your ideas of raising a child and how she
What we
plays
do
3
here,
of you.
we schedule it. We have a schedule posted on the refrigerator of who is responsible.
No. When something comes up...
No, you're talking about manipulation, right?
Yeah.
And political and...
That's relevant, though. That is
What we
relevant.
do is we schedule who is responsible, and she is
Final
very
decision.
aware of who is parenting.
Wait a minute. Hold it. See?
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, okay. Well, hold it just a minute. Here,
In other words, you're saying she's responsible for your view on Monday and his view on Tuesday.
Think
She
that's
can't
very
on
well.
Monday.
But
We
you are honest to
discussed
speak
it
to
a
that
lot.
problem. You talked
Yeah.
about it with the producers of our program.
Right.
Veronica can certainly make you all tap dance if she wants to.
Oh, yes.
That's why we've had to be fairly clear who's the final word on a given night. Is basically
Well, does the final word rotate?
No.
Yes.
It does.
Well, one said no, and the other one said yes. Which one is it?
That doesn't make sense. That means one night you could say she's been a good girl and she can have all the dessert she wants if she hasn't eaten her dinner, and the next night you haven't been with her all day.
And what if the vote is 2-1?
No,
I mean,
we have certain standards, and we discuss those
like
things
any
very
two
clearly.
parents would do it. We have a little additional problem because there's 3, there's more manipulation. But for example, I'm the disciplinarian more than either one of these two are, just by it came to me. Somehow I work better with Ronnie on those problems. But we discuss anything that's a big problem, and if some person makes a decision with her and the others disagree, they'll say something about it later on, and we will discuss it.
over here.
One thing, what about, since you live in San Diego, are you afraid of the AIDS?
San Francisco. Yeah, you're afraid of AIDS.
All right, what about the AIDS and another child?
That's why we've held off.
Yeah, but there's no evidence at all that AIDS can be transmitted in a family. It simply is not true.
Yes, but it's a possibility that we may have, Jeff and I may have something. So we're holding off for another 3 years.
You're holding off what?
Another
More children.
We will not have another child until we know something more about AIDS.
We're waiting 5 years to see if we're clear.
See, that's the problem, because you can't tell right away.
What about religion? I mean,
What about what? I'm sorry.
Religion.
Religion. Do you have a religion?
We have a lot of faith, a lot of belief. We don't belong to a formal religion, but that does not mean that we do not have a belief or practice belief in a higher power.
Over here.
Okay, you live in San Francisco now, and it seems to be working out well now. If you ever have to move somewhere else, to a smaller town or so, wouldn't you have your hesitation?
Well,
like
we have our
somebody gets a
hesitation
job
anyway
somewhere and you cannot take it because you would have to move to a small town where you would have difficulties.
Yeah, there may be more difficulty in a smaller town that would find this unusual arrangement wrong. You see, that's the problem that people in the middle part of
The other
America.
side of that is maybe we do make too many judgments based on the size of a community. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, we'd be surprised at how tolerant.
We know people who are living in a fairly small town, a gay male couple who are raising children, and the community accepts them beautifully because they're members of the community, as we are. They
even belong
participate
to
in
a
the
Baptist
community.
church.
And
You know?
You do?
No,
No,
there's this particular couple in the Midwest.
Well, I don't believe this. You're both gay, and at nighttime when you go to bed, what are you doing? You said you don't have a girlfriend right now.
Right.
I mean, don't you get jealous?
Jealous, I don't think is the word. I think sometimes I do get jealous of the emotional input. That is true. However, as I said, it's one of those things I've got to work out, and I would probably have to work it out whether I had a family or a child. This complicates it a bit, but it's a challenge I'm willing to meet for the sake of the child.
Is there more tension between the two guys than there would be between you and either one of them because of the intimacy of their relationship?
No, I think it's much more based on our personality.
At first there was, when we were defining our relationship, but that comes, maybe that comes with any relationship when you're working on a marriage. You had a show the other day that you were talking about what work it is to have a marriage, you know? That's that way with 3 people, too. You have to work 3 times as hard.
In those unusual families that have 2 heterosexually oriented men and a woman, of which there have been very few, but they're around, the tension has been between the 2 men because they feel the homosexual attitudes are very negative. See, again, it's a negative societal attitude that plays a part.
Since you said that at a certain age you would determine who is the biological parent, how are you going to determine, I mean,
You should she asked, we would determine. There are blood tests that are about 99% accurate, so.
Joy, in your wildest imagination, could you have foreseen living with 2 men and having a child?
I suppose I've always been something of a renegade, you know, and I suppose a good example, when I went back for my high school reunion, Jeff and I both did, they dropped us out of the book because we were too weird. That almost didn't surprise me because they always thought I was too weird. So I guess I could have conceived of it, but I didn't.
Out of what book?
Out of the reunion memoirs. Everyone on the committee knew every detail about our lives.
They
but
knew it,
they
but-
said they lost the form or never got it. Everybody knew the story.
Everyone knew
It
the
was
story.
It was great.
It was
Really?
too much for them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and we'll be back in a moment.
Okay, we got to get
Joy Schulenberg, who is mother, has written a book titled Gay Parenting. Not an unimportant issue for, what is about 10% of our population. A complete guide for every gay man and lesbian with children. Who here...
There's a lot of, I think...
excuse me, but I wonder who's here that isn't saying what they really think. Yeah? What's the matter?
You know, you seem like really nice people.
Well, thank you.
But, you know, whatever you want to do, okay, is your business, but why bring a child into it? Why didn't you have a puppy, a dog, work in a nursery? You know...
They wanted to have children.
Let me try it. Hang on a
They
minute.
wanted to raise...
No, honestly, I just...
You know, you seem like
That's
you're really
very
nice.
honest. But, you know, we don't say that to straight people who beat their kids.
Well, yes, I do. I stop people in a store, and I say, yes, I say, you leave that. You know, I can't do it anymore. I try to be much more subtle because my husband gets very upset with me. And then they take it out on the child worse.
Yeah.
You seem like nice people, so I hate to say anything detrimental to you, but I feel bad for the child later on. I know what my children, I have 5, and I know in every stage is what they have to go through. And I don't want her to go through anything that she doesn't have to normally go through as a child.
I feel for that. We all have our thing to overcome in life, and for Veronica, that's going to be one of her things.
One of the times she's going to have to work on is when she's an adolescent.
I mean, I had that when I had my stuff that I had to overcome when I was growing up.
I have the most difficulty with understanding how 3 separate individuals can work out a system, almost like a machine, that you're going to care for this child, you on Monday, you on Tuesday,
Oh, but
you
it's
on
not
Wednesday.
mechanical
One
at
of
all.
you.
Not.
Now, one of you has got to be the authority in the group.
He is probably the discipline, Jeff here, is probably the most disciplinarian. I mean, when it's something that Bert or I can't handle.
The other 2 don't agree. I haven't
That
had
usually doesn't come
a
up, though.
socially acceptable
That's why we
It
know
comes
each other
down
so
to a
well.
vote in the end. But it also comes to discussion. We're all intellectuals. We've all been intellectuals and have been used to having long discussions about things. And so we go through this very
So you're
much.
telling me you try to ignore your emotions on this situation?
No,
You just-
I think you probably have
and
to
that's
process
what may be
everything
hard to
longer. We try to
understand.
feel the best way through it and find what's the best for the child and the family
We come
in any
from similar
situation.
backgrounds, and we all agree on what's moral and sane.
What sexual preference would you hope that your daughter would have?
Happiness.
Happiness. It doesn't make any difference.
I'm a young mother. I know the joys and happiness of having a child, but it just seems that what you're doing is selfish. It was a selfish decision to have this child.
How?
It just isn't right.
Why?
I don't have the answers, but it just isn't.
Perhaps the selfishness, or maybe it's egocentric in feeling that we could do a good job of raising a child, and I still believe that. And I'll quote the director of my daughter's preschool, who says if all her parents were like us, she'd have a lot happier children and a lot easier job.
Yes,
So we must be doing something right.
I think it's wonderful that a child can be born into such a family with such great love, obviously, when there are so many kids who accidentally or for what other reason, social convention, come into straight families who are abused. We've got teenage suicide on the rampage, so maybe it's a good thing that gay families are having more of a chance.
I don't believe people who don't want children should have them. I think that's
right.
criminal.
The real issue is whether you want the children and whether you really feel comfortable in giving them a lot
Parenting
of
isn't
love.
a sexual thing
It's
at
not a
all.
sexual
It's not
thing.
homosexual or
No, it isn't.
heterosexual.
No,
The
parenting
other
is
thing
very
is,
different.
you know, we have, you know, there are homosexual jerks, just like...
Yes.
But it does seem that you really do have something to prove. So it would seem Veronica might be the beneficiary of this attempt to show that, you know...
It's interesting. There was a judge who awarded custody to a lesbian mother in New Jersey back in '78 or something, who stated exactly that beautifully. And he basically said that because of this, the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might actually develop a sense that, you know, if I can say it, that the child might of more loyalty and more ability to base her judgments of people on reality rather than on conditioning.
I have no problems with, gay people wanting to have children, but I don't understand why you had to sleep with both of them.
Because we all wanted kids. I mean, if it had just been Jeff or I or Bert or I, that's how it would have been. It was situational.
A lot of gay people are wanting to have children, and the gay people who do are doing it mostly out of a choice. And that it's a very new kind of thing. We don't know how it's going to come out. There are some indications that the problems come up in adolescence. Down at the Institute, we've had some calls from other social workers that are about children whose parents are gay and that they have a trouble handling that.
Whose father's name is on the birth certificate?
One's on his mother's husband and one's on his biological father. Because she was born at home, we were able to fill out the birth certificate ourselves.
If the baby decides when she's old enough who the real father is, are both of you prepared to accept that you're not the father?
By that time, we both know we're fathers, whether one's biological or not.
It's like an adopted child. If you adopt a child at age 1 minute and you raise them, is that not your child? Whether
We
you're
went
the
through
biological
everything
father
together,
Yeah, I understand.
the whole bit.
Let me clear it up. I'm not sure, maybe I missed this. Do you know which one of you?
No, not for sure.
But you must, all of you have a pretty good
Could you guess? We've guessed for 4.5 years and we're still not sure.
Really?
Really, we don't know.
You both have brown eyes?
She looks like both of our baby pictures.
The only difference is the height, and I've got the, I'm tall. So
He looks like
that
his
can
little
count for it.
sister Amy, and she looks like me when I was a little kid, and she looks like Joy.
She looks just like my baby pictures.
How many here think they know? How many here are not sure? We'll be back in a moment. Rejects the non-father, you mean?
Hopefully we'll go for counseling because her relationship is so tight. I can't imagine that.
I'm not sure I understand why it took 3, why Jeff and Bert didn't go out and arrange something somewhere, and why Joy didn't.
Many gay people are doing that now.
We didn't need to.
We had a relationship. It was happy. It's been happy.
Who bought the engagement ring and who gave it to who?
Actually, I gave them both rings, to tell you the truth, and I happen to have one. We just gave whatever we had.
This is your grandmother's
How
or
does the
your
marriage
mother's?
certificate read? Who is the husband?
This is not public information.
I have an adopted daughter. I love her like more than life itself.
Right.
And I don't think it matters who is the biological parent.
Yeah, basically, once a kid is in a family that
If you want to have children and you love them, that's all that counts. I love mine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Both of these gentlemen seem very together when it comes to, who's the father, who isn't the father. The question I have, Phil, is if both of these men have problems in their relationship, how is it going to affect how they view who the father really is?
It doesn't affect how we view the father. If we had a big trouble in our relationship, it would affect the family.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't affect views of fatherhood at all.
Okay,
It'll show up in the family system, and that has to be dealt with.
you said that you have been helping other people be gay parents. Are you suggesting that 3 or suggesting 2 gay?
3 is hard because it's hard to get 3 people who agree. It's hard to get 2 people to agree on what to do, much less 3.
Very difficult.
Question for the doctor. Do you have any children or have you been married? I realize you're gay, but
No.
you have never
But, I'm a family therapist, so.
Do you have other friends who are in the same situation as you are?
Not
so
with 3, but we have other gay and lesbian friends who have children, yes, and our daughter has peers.
that these people are very lucky also because, especially the men, because gay men can't adopt.
Oh, yes, they can.
Well, in
It's hard.
Massachusetts, where
It's
I've
hard,
been,
but they
the
can.
governor just outlawed that gay men can't adopt.
Massachusetts?
Massachusetts it doesn't say gay men can't. It makes it so difficult that it's almost impossible, but it varies.
We are so taken with Joy, we'd love to have lunch with her.
Yeah. Well, you take Joy, you get 3 people. Yeah.
I'd just like to say I think Veronica is extremely fortunate to have 3 nurturing adults in her life.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a moment.
If you would like a written transcript of today's program, send $2.50 in check or money order to Donahue Transcripts, Box 2111, Cincinnati, Ohio 45201. Include the subject or the name of the guest with your request.
Yes.
Okay, due to the fact that society is not accepting this type of arrangement for the benefit of the child, the arrangement that you had with this gentleman, why couldn't he have someone else and do it on a more legal basis for the benefit of the child? So this way you could have a mother and a father. Like, he get himself a lesbian.
But it's working.
And
you don't
he
just go out and get yourself a lesbian now.
Yeah, go get yourself a lesbian. I think a lesbian to lunch.
I'd have someone too.
May I call your attention once again to this book, which is titled Gay Parenting. It's Joy Schulenberg's effort to share with other gays interested in parenthood her own life experience. Yeah.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
And I think